Jackie Chan and Jet Li co-star for the first time ever, intermixed with a whole bunch of magic and kung fu. I ask you, what more do you need from a film? Howdy, I'm Jeff Goldsmith, Senior Editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, and tonight we have with us John Fusco, the screenwriter, and of course the Jade Warrior, the villain of the film, Collin Chou, as they both discuss the making of The Forbidden Kingdom. Remember, if you dig this podcast, you'll love Creative Screenwriting Magazine, and you could look for it on newsstands or in Barnes & Noble and Borders bookshops in the United States, Canada, England, and Western Europe. To find out what's in the latest issue, check out www.creativescreenwriting.com. But now, without further ado, let's jump right onto the stage of our sold-out screening of The Forbidden Kingdom, right as I introduced our honored guests. First off, the screenwriter of this fine film, John Fusco. And of course, the Jade Warlord, Collin Chou. We're going to start with both of your breaking in stories, how you guys kind of broke into entertainment. John, your first produced film that I know of, at least, is Ralph Macchio classic Crossroads. And it was kind of based on your own life story, kind of your own walkabout going through the Delta, seeking out perfect blues. Talk about how that script came about, and was that the one that got you your WGA card?
I started off, I always wanted to write screenplays and work in movies. And I used to write short stories, turn them into scripts, and film them as a kid. But that wasn't met with a lot of support where I grew up. And I kind of channeled that into writing lyrics because there were a lot more garage bands than there were opportunities to make movies. And I ended up leaving school at 16 and going out on the road. And I was very interested in the roots of Southern rock and roll, so I headed down to the Mississippi Delta and hitchhiked all through the South. And eventually came back and got a GED, got into NYU Film School, and for my first screenwriting assignment, I wrote Crossroads. And because the material was all there after traveling around. And it was... Walter Hill was directing it in the Mississippi Delta while I was still in school, and I got credits being down on the set.
Go back a step, because a lot of film school students have a screenplay that's important to them. How did you get it to the right people to make it become something well beyond a student film?
There was a competition called the Focus Awards at that time. It's not around anymore, and I was tending bar in New York City at the NYU student pub, and I saw this poster outside the pub about the Focus Award, and there was a directing category and sound achievement and acting, and I could never find any kind of screenwriting opportunity in these competitions, but Focus had one, and I was a couple of weeks away from the deadline and about 30 pages away from the ending of the script, so I just worked around the clock, got it done, and entered it in this competition, and I think Sid Field was the judge of that competition at the time, and it won first place. And so William Morris signed me when I went out there, and that's how it got started.
And you were still in school. I love it.
I was still in school. I have to say Waldo Salt and Ring Lardner Jr. were the two master instructors of that seminar, and Waldo took a real interest in the script because it was a road story.
He's a living legend.
That's
amazing. Both you and Collin share a love for martial arts. You hold a red sash in Shaolin Kung Fu. How long have you been practicing?
I started in Korean styles when I was 12, and I've been doing Shaolin Kung Fu for the last 8 years. So it's been a lifelong love and a real passion.
Collin, you started very young too, both in martial arts and the entertainment industry. Talk about starting off in Taiwan, I believe it was, and training and being recognized in your first film.
Well, I wasn't as lucky as like John, It's tough. I was born with 8 brothers and 4 sisters, 13 of them in Taiwan. So I needed to go to work in my early age. So when I was 5, 6 years old, I couldn't go to school very often. So I went to start working. While I was working, and then I have four or five teachers. They all have various styles. So I just picked it up from them at the park. And I didn't know what their style they were practicing. So I just want to kill my energy, and then I love to do some movements. So until when I was 12 years old, one day one of my co-workers asked me, "Do you want to be a stand-up?" I said, "Why not? I'm pretty good, you know." So because I have been practicing, so I went to on set, and then after the first day, I went back and then I quit my job. I want to be a stand-up. So from when I was 12 years old until 18, and I met Sammo Hung. He was producing a movie in Taiwan, so I got a chance to meet Sammo Hung, and then that was my first leading role when I was 18. So after that movie, he brought me to Hong Kong and worked for more than 35 movies.
You worked with him over the course of 7 years, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would you say that was some of the important things that you learned working with Sammo?
Sammo, he was a producer. He was a producer in that movie, so I wasn't learn anything from him because you never see this guy in that age, because he gave the money, but doesn't mean he needed to be there all the time. So until when I was around 21, because I have 2 years military service for 2 years, and 21 I went to Hong Kong and started to working with him again from 1989 to 1999. During this time, mostly I worked with Sammo Hung. Until 1999, I came here, and then 2 years later, I got my first role in the Matrix movies, because Larry and Andy Wachowski, they see me pretty good, damn good, you know. Can I say that word?
Yeah.
That word's good? Okay.
Absolutely. And you did great in the...
But, you know what? After I met John, he's very, very damn good, even better. Because, you know, after 12 years old, when I was working in the entertainment business, I stopped to practice until there's any stunts, and then I will practice. Otherwise, I will just stop. You know, I'm not kind of crazy martial arts kung fu people, you know. But he's really good. He practiced while he's snoring. You know, he sent me a picture. Wow, master. He's a real master. Really. But right now we just practice until there's a specific movements, and then I will do it. Otherwise, I will just mostly sleep and eat whatever you like. No need to diet, you know.
Collin,
American people always say diet. No.
Remember how we met?
Just eat, you know. There's a bunch of martial arts people, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where?
We have people from the Museum of Martial Arts.
You want to practice with me? Do something with me right now? But unfortunately, I just get hurt. So don't come up here, huh?
Collin, I'm curious. You know, before you left to be a stuntman at 12, what was the other job that you were working when you were 12?
Well, the first job I was working as a wood carving, kind of a statue, like a Buddha statue. That one. 3 years later, I think no way. I'm not going to do this one because I was always hungry. And then opposite, there is a bakery. I said, Mom, I want to be a bakery. So from 9 to 12, I was working as a bakery shop, because I can eat all the time. No need to diet. Eat. Right? You see? I don't diet. And then I'm damn good. Right?
Right on?
Sleep, mostly sleep. Sleep, very good.
Sleep's very important.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna make it to this movie, I swear to God, but I just want to go back for a second again.
So you can get jail that part. You know, Jackie Chan and Jet Li, they're scared of me. Really. That's why they don't come here tonight. Never appear when I'm here.
John, your next project after Crossroads, 3 years after Lawrence Kasdan brought back the Western genre with Silverado, you brought the Western genre to teenagers through Young Guns. Talk about that as your next project and kind of doing something that was, original for the genre, putting a whole bunch of, teens in it that had come out of the John Hughes era.
Yeah, well, after Crossroads was made, I moved out here. And I was out here for a little while, and I had signed with an agent, and they had me out taking meetings. And I had development deals going on, but I wasn't writing what I really wanted to write. And so I felt I wanted to go back to New England and hole up and write and work on stuff that I was passionate about. And the first thing my agent said was, you can't leave now. You just got here, you have your first movie going. It's a bad career choice. And I said, I really want to go and write on spec. And they said, well, what do you plan to write? And I said, a Western. And they said, so you're moving to a cabin in Vermont and you're going to write a Western. And, this is goodbye. And so, but I went out there and I had always been fascinated by the story of Billy the Kid. And the fact that he rode with a gang of other young guys who were under 21 called the Regulators, and that Billy was very different from the Johnny Mac Brown or Paul Newman romantic dressed in black and whistling sad ballads. And I used to stare at this one existing photo of Billy the Kid when I was young and just trying to figure out who was this guy. And I loved reading about the actual history of the Lincoln County Wars. So I wrote Young Guns on spec, and I sent it to a director friend. He showed it to a few actors out here, and everyone responded. We had, Sean Penn and anyone who read the script said, I want to do a Western, and I'm really drawn to this story.
Well, it's smart, because a lot of writers, think that they have to predict the marketplace. And you did something that was, really just coming back as a genre. And I think that's why it was a success. Obviously, there was Young Guns 2, but we're still missing Young Guns 3, my friend.
Because I will be in it.
You will be in it?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Young Gun 3. It's not this gun, it's not this gun, it's this gun.
Well, of course, Emilio Estevez is directing now, so you write the script, he could direct it. It could happen, man. It could happen.
But it wasn't, when the film came out, a lot of critics assumed that it was designed to cast the Brat Pack on horseback, as they said. And it wasn't. I was just really passionate about this story and intrigued by the idea that most of these guys in the Old West didn't make it past 21. It's kind of like the NFL. And I was like, so the script, got into the hands of the right guys. They all wanted to do it. And then, even during the filming of Young Guns 2, these guys kept coming. I mean, Charlie Sheen was killed in the first one, and he called me and said, how can I get back into 2? He said, all that Indian stuff. Isn't there a ceremony that they can bring me back? And then John Bon Jovi showed up on the set. Tom Cruise showed up on the set. Randy Travis. They all did cameos uncredited. But they all wanted to be a part of a Western. And they all wanted to get shot. We squibbed everybody. We squibbed Bon Jovi like 28 times, and he does this cameo.
So he was living on a prayer by the end of it.
Yeah, I went out
I want to be in it, Young Gun 3, but I don't want to be a cameo.
He doesn't want to be shot. Yeah.
Well, Collin, speaking of cameos, this is the first film that has Jet Li and Jackie Chan together, but you'd actually known them and performed with them for many years. You were a stunt double, I believe, stand-in on Thunderbolt, the Jackie Chan movie, and obviously you were with Jet Li on Defender and even a film before that. Talk about just kind of your friendship with him through the years and what it was like for this monumental time when the three of you were together in a film, and you're the master villain, buddy.
Just one word, same word. They're scared of me. Right? Oh. Well.
But really, you've reached the progression? You went from kind of the background player to now right in front with both of them. What have you kind of learned from them over the years, or just what's your friendship been like?
Well, over the years, the first time I really worked with Jackie was 1994 or 93, that movie. Okay, and I was offset because, Hong Kong, being an actor in Hong Kong or Asia is tough. Even though you are an actor for the company, but you are not just being an actor. You need to do everything, even mop the floor or doing everything. That's Jackie like that, right? Yeah. So whatever we work with the team, we need it all together, doing everything together. So I was off the set, and then Simon Holm was that movie's action choreographer and asked me to help out to choreograph some crazy stunts. Don't let Jackie to do it, Just giving him a hard time. No, just kidding. So we have a choreograph. It's kind of a 360 turning cat, and then he got injury, and then it is just being recovered. So when someone say, "Okay, Collin, you do it, just do it for Jackie," and then I say, "Okay," I put on his body doubles outfit, and then all of a sudden he said, "Hey, Collin, let me do it. This guy can do it." I said, "Why? You scared of people will see me?" No. He said, if I don't want to do it, even though I'm still recovering, but he can handle it. If I don't want to do it, I will get lazy, So from that moment, I learned something. You see, those guys, kind of Jackie and Jet Li, they really endeavor to do something really from the bottom of their heart. It's not just, when you see the movie, it's not just body movements. You got to see the behind that. That is what the philosophy. A bunch of people, every year, thousands of martial arts. They can beat 3 of us up easily. Really easily. But it's not everyone can stand there in front of camera to do, hey, when I just walk in, the body language, I'm going to kill you all. That kind of big ass look, It's not everyone can do that. Okay, even though how beautiful you are, how beautiful, but you don't have emotional. That's very important, right? Right? Who say no? Oh no. So over the year, I learned a lot of how they really come. When they are working, they really come from the bottom of their heart to work. That's most important. Of course, they learn something from me too, because they never next to me when I'm here. That's not true.
John, I think it was great the way that you used Chinese mythology in this film, particularly the story of the Monkey King, which Western audiences aren't as familiar with. Talk about how Forbidden Kingdom started. To my knowledge, it was a bedtime story for your son. Is that right?
Yeah, my son, around the time he was 10, about 4 years ago, began an interest in martial arts. And he discovered my Shaw Brothers collection. And it became this father-son experience, introducing him to the films and encouraging him to practice martial arts. But because it's been a big part of my life, I wanted to introduce him to the classical literature and the philosophy and the legends and lore that inform martial arts. And so I started reading Chinese classics to him at night, at bedtime, Journey to the West, and said, you've got to learn about the Monkey King. If you're going to do stick forms, you've got to learn about Sun Wukong. and the Eight Immortals. And so I would read this stuff to him, and it was hard for a 10-year-old Western kid to really grasp it. And so I just put it down one night and started making up a bedtime story and a time travel story where a young guy like him goes into ancient China of Kung Fu legend and lore and learns the deeper precepts of Kung Fu. And that's how it all started.
So how did you go from the next level to bringing it to a screenplay? It was as you were writing it for him, you realized, wait a minute, this would make a good movie?
You know, as I was making it up night after night, I realized that it was really, what I was creating was not only for him, but a kind of love letter to martial arts cinema and the martial heroes from my childhood. So it was really this cool relationship, storytelling thing we had going on. And I was on the set of Hidalgo out in the desert with the producer Casey Silver. And he asked me what I was working on. And I said, you know, right now I'm into this bedtime story. And I'm trying to figure out the ending before I get back home for my son. And so I started telling him about it, and we were at the catering truck, and he just kind of put his fork down and said, keep going, keep going. And he eventually said, go home and write this thing. Do it as a screenplay. I love this. And so that's how it started.
At one point, did you know that Jackie Chan and Jet Li, and of course, this guy right here, Collin, we're going to be in it?
After I turned in a first draft to Casey Silver, he said, so who are the two masters? Who do you see in those roles? And I hadn't thought about it at all, even though when you look at Jackie as Lu Yan, the drunken immortal, it makes a lot of sense.
Drunken master.
Yeah, I mean, the allegorical founder of the drunken style, but I hadn't thought of that while I was writing it. But at that moment when Casey said, who are the two guys? I said, you know, as a big fan of martial arts cinema, we've all wanted Jet and Jackie to get together for 15 years or so. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the one. And he said, we'll never get him, but I like the way you think.
Did you at any point do a rewrite once that they both decided that they loved your script, like to just even out their roles?
Yeah, not so much to even out the roles, but Jet became a real creative collaborator. He, what interested him the most was that since he was a kid, he wanted to play the Monkey King. That was his a boyhood hero and a dream of his to play the Monkey King. But he felt that every Monkey King version done in Asia was chapter and verse, and there was no latitude, and it was done over and over again. And he felt that this could take it outside the box and introduce it to a whole new audience and to a global audience. And so he had a lot of ideas about portraying Monkey King and about the other character. I originally wrote the Tang monk who travels along with them, but he did martial arts. I reimagined him as a Shaolin monk, and Jet said, no, you know, he can't do that because the Tang monk wouldn't fight, but Monkey King is capable of 72 transformations. And as we talked it through, we said, well, what if Monkey King has created this monk as one of the transformations to come free himself? So Jet was a big part of that. And I had flown out to Hong Kong and several times back and forth working on the ideas with him, which was really exciting.
We always talk about habits. Collin, we'll start with you. We just want to get into both your habits for your craft. What's it like for you to rehearse? How important is rehearsal to you as an actor and, of course, as a martial artist? How often do you go through a regimented practice?
Well, rehearsal is all depends on the movie, you know. Normally, we just get on set, and then whatever you're ready, you know, they give you a script, and then you gotta be ready, whatever they call you, right? Which I always be ready when I'm on set. And for the choreograph, it depends on your physical, you know. You fit, you don't have to practice, like me. Just sleep, no need to practice. Really, I'm not kidding. Hey. Really, that's all depends. Like Michael Acurano, you know, because he is not used to do this kind of movement, so he needs the production need to send him back probably 2 months before to practice the martial arts. So luckily we have Yun Wu-ping, Master Yun Wu-ping. Yeah, you know who he is.
He was the choreographer on this film, and he's amazing.
And he said, hey, Michael, okay, we are going to train you. That's the story what I heard. And then Michael said, oh, no way, I can do that? And then Yun Wu-ping said, if Keanu Reeves can do that, you can do it. Do it. So Michael said, okay. And then become like that.
8 hours a day, he trained him.
8 hours a day, yeah. I'm 8 hours a day to sleep. Tough, huh?
John, talk about your habit when you write. How long do you like to write for each day?
When I started, I would write. I would get up religiously at 5 o'clock in the morning, early morning writer, and I would say through the first. I've been doing this 22 years now, and I think like the first 15 years or so, I'd write from 5 till noon, and stop there. Now I do more martial arts in the morning. I do about an hour of Tai Chi and Qigong, and then write for about 3 hours. So,
Colin's bowing to you for our podcast listeners around the world. What do you do when you get writer's block? A lot of writers battle it in different ways. How do you? If you get it.
I don't get it.
Okay.
I don't get it.
Call me.
Good. No, that's.
I struggle with screenplays through the course of the day, like anyone. But as far as running out of ideas or hitting the wall, so far, so good.
How important is outlining to you?
It varies from project to project. I think I've found that each project kind of dictates its own process for me, and sometimes it'll be a very detailed outline. Most of the time, just rough signposts, and lately a lot of prose. I could do a first act in a kind of novella form, and then outlining through the second and third act.
You guys were talking a second ago about Wu-ping Yu, and obviously, Collin, you worked with him on The Matrix. He was great here. There's been some debates that I've read by martial arts enthusiasts that are kind of anti the magical, the flying, and some of that stuff. I think it's great. I think it's cinematic, and it belongs in film, of course. What are you guys' perspective on that versus the real practice and craft and hard work it takes in the real world to properly do martial arts?
Well, I think in this movie, Master Wu-ping had a philosophy and an approach to it, and that was that there'd be 3 levels of martial arts. There'd be the classical, the Shaolin, 5 animal styles, the stuff that Jet Li does so well. And the second level would be the supernatural, because we had those kinds of characters in here, the Jade Warlord, the white-haired demon, the white-haired demoness, and some of those supernatural characters who would fly, who had cultivated their martial art to that level. And then the third level was street fighting and the straight-up type of stuff back in Boston. But I think in this story, the flying is part of the Jianghu world, that alternate universe in the wuxia classics. And so it really works in this type of film. And the 3 styles intersect at times, which I love.
It's essentially... Sorry, go, Collin.
I just want to say, no wonder I say he's the master. That's exactly what I want to say. Really? Oh.
It's essentially a coming-of-age story, and he has 2 mentors. What was it like to kind of balance their 2 styles? I mean, we talked about it a little earlier, but, what was it that you wanted to get that was different from both of them on the page to keep them distinctive? Because, usually one mentor is enough in a coming-of-age story.
Well, Jet and Jackie are like Hope and Crosby, and they're really, just 2 different personalities. The characters were written that way, but that's how these guys are. When I first went out to meet with Jackie, I mean, it was wild. You know, I went to Jackie Chan Enterprises with 400 people working for him, and he was obsessed with Segways. And when we went there to talk about the script, and he was like, "I got to show you my Segway," and he was riding around demonstrating, and then took us out to this sumptuous Hong Kong feast, and then out all night long and driving in his customized Jackie Chan sports car, getting home at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, "Oh, the idea. What was the idea?" And then with Jet would want to meet in my hotel room, and he'd come in incognito and get up on the chair and pull his legs up and sit and with his Buddhist prayer beads, and he would take, you know, 1 to 3 minutes between each question to really think it through and say, how can we get to the internal? What are we trying to say here? And so you had these, you know, two
you kind of cast them as themselves.
Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
great.
Really.
That's smart. That's smart.
It. Yeah.
I'd heard that you wrote the fight description into your script, which is very rare in screenplays. And with fights this complicated, talk about doing that on the page and how detailed it was and how long it made your script.
Yeah, well, you know, I didn't know how else to do it because I love the martial arts and I practiced Shaolin, and it was an opportunity to get this stuff on the page for metrical effect. You know, when you write action, you really want to create a sense of pacing. And so I did the same with martial arts. And when I went to the first choreography meeting with Wu Ping, and we're sitting at the table, and the translator was reading the fight scenes to him. And I remember he was sitting there listening, and she said, okay, the drunken immortal throws a phoenix fist, and the silent monk intercepts it in a mantis gao. It catches a free ride, and monkey steps into a reverse crane sweep, which is known at Shaolin as the Iron Broom.
At that point, did an executive at Lionsgate just start crying? Did they reading that script?
You know, and Wu Ping looked up and he said, most writers, when they give me a script and they get to the fight scene, it just says, now they fight. He said, and I do everything. And so I said, no, I'm just, you know, that's just the suggestion. You're the master, I'm the student. But, you know, I didn't want to just write, now they fight. I wanted to call it a placeholder, you know. And he said, no, I like Mantis. That's good. I think Jet's character should do Mantis. And then he started asking me about which weapons I saw each character using. And I had ideas for that. And it became this interplay. He would take a scene and go to the training center and put it on its feet with his stunt guys and with Michael Angarano, and then call me back and say, how's this look? And so I would go back to my laptop and bang out another version of it. And the whole time I was learning more about martial arts as I went along with that. But he took that written choreography and just used it as a jumping off point, you know.
How long was your screenplay?
It was 110. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty lean, actually. Especially for all that description. I'm in shock. Collin, we talked earlier about what Jet and Jackie thought of their roles. What did you think of your role when you first read the screenplay and you read Jade Warrior?
Because it's so different from my personality, you know. So when the producers and director, they said, hey, I want to make a transformation. So they asked me to play. So thank you for them. Put me on board. And thank you for the role, you know. That is a great role. Anyway, a lot of people say that's an evil and then bad guy, badass. I don't see he's a bad guy. Hey, come on. He's just doing his job. You know, Jie Wolo is to protect the kingdom, right? He's trying to protect the Forbidden Kingdom, not allow anyone to disrespect or break the rules. Unfortunately, those unruly characters trying to break the rules for the Forbidden Kingdom. So I'm a police. I need to do something. That's when I create my character. What's wrong? Huh?
Was there anything you read on the page that you went to John with and said, "Hey, what if we change this or that?" Or
no. Normally I don't. When you are writing something, I'm an actor. I want to do something just exactly like you wrote. If I change, that become my stuff. You know, as an actor, I try to do away from this kind of thing. But I heard a lot of actors that like to change the speech. Well, but when you think this part, this through, you change. Okay, see, right now I have this line, and then you want to say it like your way. That become you play yourself. You know, you're not play the character, right? Yeah, you agree. Huh? I buy you a lunch. Right? So normally when I doing my acting, I don't want to. I just do whatever the writers they have written. You know, you gotta go into that moment. You're not doing yourselves. You know.
An actor who respects the written word. I mean, wow.
Yes, I mean,
you must be from a different country.
Collin sent me an email.
No camera.
I mean, I was really, surprised. But Collin was in China. I was going back and forth, and he sent me an email from China, thanking me for writing the role. And he had ideas that he wanted to run by me, and I really appreciated that. And one of the things that I loved about his approach to the role is that, in the way that Johnny Depp channeled Keith Richards and Pepe Le Pew for Captain Jack Sparrow. What were your influences for that, for the Jade Warlord?
No. I say, okay, I don't want to just do the description from the character or the script, you know. Normally, when I'm doing my character, I want to know what's the writer put on that words, the under meaning. That's most important. So, when I see this role, the Jie Wo, this character, as soon as I think, okay, Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada. You say Meryl Streep is the big woman? No, she's just doing her job. Protect the kingdom, not protect the condom, right?
I like it.
You gotta think through. Okay, when you think, okay, I'm going to play bad guy. I'm going to play bad guy. That's our very surface, you know.
Meryl's in the audience tonight, actually. I think you're gonna get fan mail from Meryl Streep. I'm telling you, you're gonna. It'll arrive.
Yeah.
John, structurally, you place these great flashbacks that kind of set up the mythology of the movie, the Monkey King story, obviously Sparrow's backstory. Did that shift around where you were going to present it, or was it always where we ended up seeing it? And the Monkey King story is a big pause from the main storyline too.
Yeah, it's basically where it is in the movie. That's where originally I had it structured. But the Monkey King story on the page actually went on longer. It wasn't until we looked at it on screen that we felt, okay, we're away from our main characters too long. We've got to really truncate this, because there's a lot of legend there to get across. But we were able to push it just as far as we felt we could without losing track of the characters. But then coming back to Jackie with, that's what I heard anyway, kind of worked well. And then with Sparrow, we had a flashback without voiceover, and that kind of took us out of it. And so keeping her voiceover going in a sort of haiku made that work.
Talk about the finale. I mean, there was a lot going on. They're going for the elixir of immortality. She's got the jade-tipped dart to kill him. Everybody has their goals, and of course, freeing the Monkey King is the main goal with the staff. Talk about how difficult that was to write, all that stuff on the page. How many pages was it, actually, would be a question.
Yeah, I think it was about 12 to 15. And, we called it the Battle Royal, and it was pulling out all the stops, everything escalating to Five Elements Mountain, and to juggle the different fights that were going on. And, of course, we have Jet Li fighting the Jade Warlord, and Jade Warlord getting the best of him, Jackie fighting the Bride with White Hair, and then, of course, Jet is reborn as the Monkey King and gets the best of the Jade Warlord. So he's balancing all of those pieces, keeping Michael Angarano in there without taking him over the top as a superhero, playing out Sparrow's revenge. It was a lot of.
Was outlining
juggling.
important to keep all those elements in play?
It was, yeah.
Was there anything that you had to do a crazy rewrite on? Because I know you were also the producer. Were you in China for the 17-week shoot?
I was in China for most of it, yeah.
Were there any important rewrites you needed to do?
I was rewriting constantly. It was this type of movie. It was so collaborative, and I encouraged that. Wu Ping had his stuff going on all the time at the training center and coming up with ideas, and Jet Li was always off, meditating in some area, and then coming back to me saying we're not going deep enough with the Silent Monk, and and then locations.
They were amazing.
I remember I had my laptop and I was sitting in the back of this van, and we were driving in remote parts of China at the end of the Silk Road, and the van was bouncing, and I was writing, and Rafaela De Laurentiis, one of the producers, was in the van, and she kept turning around and saying, "Scritto, Giovanni, scritto. Keep writing. We've got to get this scene in." And writing to location, we would get to a certain location and say, we have to do 3 scenes in this area, so we have to lose the river, and we have to do it in the mountains, and that type of thing. And so keeping that going, and the relationship with Wu Ping and the martial arts choreography, I was writing constantly.
For both of you guys, and this is our last question before we turn it over to the crowd, what was your toughest scene? So, Collin, for you, what was the toughest scene for you to act in? And of course, John, when we get to you, what was the toughest scene for you to write? But Collin, we'll start with you.
Well, the tough scene, I can't remember any tough scene because it's very easy for me. All very easy, really. But for the whole thing, when I was shooting the movie, the most tough thing is I need to eat a lot of good stuff. This production is so good. They make best food for us. No complaint.
So a good craft service table, that's a key to the actor's heart?
Terrific.
Yeah.
And then, you see?
Not as good
John
as the Matrix,
already
though?
say, okay, Wu Ping, he had come up some idea, rewrite, and then Jackie and Jelly, I don't have any trouble.
Wait. So how was the catering compared to the Matrix movies you were on?
Oh, of course, Matrix. Both is good. All good. Maybe a little bit better. All right.
John, what was the toughest scene for you to write?
Well, if I could just step back to the rewrite question, because I think it's an important one, is that this was the most English language dialogue that Jet or Jackie have ever taken on. And so there was a lot of paring down of the dialogue. And when I first went to see Jackie, and he had committed to the role, I basically pitched the movie to him in Hong Kong. But then when we went to sit down with him and record his dialogue to see how it was working, and he looked at how much dialogue he had on the page, he said, "I can't do this." He said, "You didn't tell me these words, immortal this, immortal that. I like to say, go, run. I can't do this." And then he saw Jet's character's name, and he said, "Who's the silent monk? How come I'm not the silent monk?" And so we read through the stuff with him, and it was a real challenge. And I said, "Okay, I'll go back, and I'm going to pare it down." And so I had a tape recorder, and I was listening to how he did certain lines and trying to find variations and truncate it. And at that big Hong Kong dinner, Jackie learned that I really liked his Shiraz. He's got a Jackie Chan label, Shiraz, and with his face on it. And so he said, "I'll make a deal with you. For every line of dialogue you cut, a bottle of Jackie Chan Shiraz." So I showed up on set, and there was this monologue he had, and I had worked all night on it, and I brought it into like 3 punchy words that I felt said it all. And I said, "Jackie, you owe me a case." And he looked at it, and he smiled, and he recited the entire original monologue beautifully. And he took a real pride in it, and he was, he would stay up late at night working on it with the coach, and I was just so proud of both Jet and Jackie and how they handled the
Which monologue was it that you cut down?
Trying to remember that. Which I think it was his death scene.
Okay.
Yeah, it was near death.
And so then, what was your toughest scene to write? Just you and the page, the battle.
Toughest scene, I think, was the training sequence with Jason, where he learns the essence of kung fu.
He seems to get kung fu raped in that scene a little. They're just all beating up on him. Yeah. He's tied up. He's crying, screaming.
Yeah, it's sort of, Michael really did cry and scream when they were training him. And stretching is the first part of it. All the big, and it was like Shaolin Temple in there. And he was just, he had 2 guys sitting on his back, 2 other guys pulling his legs out, and he was yelling for help. And no one spoke English, and he said, "How do you say pain in Chinese?" And one of the guys said, "Oh, tong, right? Tong."
Yeah, tong.
And so he just yelled tong, and Wu Ping said, "Good."
But you know what? They might don't understand. You want to demonstrate? I
will not do the splits, but we are going to open it up to the crowd for questions. You, ma'am, right there. 2 questions. The first was, were you influenced by Joseph Campbell's hero's journey from his book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces? Also, the second question was, could you talk about the cherry blossom scene? And, sorry, what was the end of it?
7 Samurai.
And was it a 7 Samurai reference?
Yeah, well, for the first question, absolutely. It was definitely a hero's journey story. And it was interesting how the elements of the Chinese mythology fit that template so well. Even in the Joseph Campbell stuff, he talks about the hero, after passing through the innermost cave, bringing back the elixir to heal the community. Of course, it was elixir in a whole other sense, in a European sense, but really fits into the Chinese mythology. And also the wuxia swordplay classics follow the hero's journey. And although the ideologies are really different, and because the concept of yin and yang is always underneath, there are more gray areas, where we have white hat and black hat and good and evil. With Monkey King, it's, the studio execs had asked me earlier on, I don't get this monkey guy. Is he good or is he bad? And I said, yeah, right. We don't get that in the European legends and myths. But yeah, Hero's Journey was definitely on my mind while writing it. And with the blossom scene, no, that was we were looking for a great location for that, and Peter Powell, our cinematographer, fell in love with that location at Fanyang, and there are certain allusions to some other the Hong Kong classics that Peter had in mind when he worked on it, but not Seven Samurai specifically.
And of course, mentors are always an important part of Joseph Campbell's work too. Right there, you sir in the front row. Question for Collin, kind of in 2 parts. You've worked with a lot of the legends in the business. Is there anyone, firstly, that you think hasn't been given attention, that's kind of been a background player that we're going to see more of? And also, what are some of the differences that you've noticed over the years that have kind of stuck with you or interested you?
Well, I'm a top name too. I'm just kidding. Well, it's such a great honor to work with them, Even I really admire, because since I'm working on a lot of action movies. So when I first working in this country, the first movie, Matrix movies, so I'm so admire of Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, or Carrie Ann, because they don't know how to fight. They don't know really, but they just train from Yuen Wu-ping's team, and then they really can do it on the screen. You see, wow, amazing, That's the actor really I admire, Everyone, a lot. I just say a lot of people can be a martial artist very easily, but not everyone can act and with physical together, And that part I really needed to learn.
Over the years, the second part of his question,
Yeah.
was there anything that intrigued you just in the different styles that you've seen that you've kind of adapted maybe into your own style?
Well, just learning from whatever I work on, different kind of film, and I just pick it up. Kind of a lot of people say, am I an MMA fighter? I'm not, but I can pick it up easily when I'm dreaming, sleeping, and then just, okay. And then I know how to do it. I'm not kidding. Don't think I'm kidding. You still smile? I'm not kidding. Really.
Sleep training's good. I did that with my 1-year-old in this past year. Right there, you ma'am. Will your screenplay be available for purchase?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
right.
I think it'd be nice to do that.
There was another one in the middle, right? You saw in the green shirt, I believe. What was it like to film in China? Was there any difficulty with permits? And sometimes I know the Chinese government is asked to censor scripts as needed.
Yeah, they took a close look at the script, and they asked me to make a few changes in dialogue, especially in the case of the Monkey King being represented as a rebel and anarchist. But the journey to the West really was this satire on bureaucracy and organized religions, and in the 16th century. But as far as the permits and filming in China, when we were shooting in the desert, we got very close to a army base, and Peter Powell had the camera crane go up, and it was the army base saw it and came over, and there were Westerners there with the cameras, and so our Chinese liaisons told us to stay close to the set and just keep filming. Casey Silver and I looked up, and on each dune surrounding us was a Chinese soldier, armed, watching the production. And so we did what we always did when we ran into trouble in these situations. We went to Jackie Chan. And Jackie came out with the Jackie Chan hats and scarves and water bottles. And
some Shiraz, I hope.
Shiraz, and within 15 minutes, the soldiers were at craft service with us. They love Jackie Chan.
This is a PG-13 movie. Was it always going to be PG-13? Or did you ever have an R-rated possibility? Was that part of your design?
The design was PG-13, yeah, that was the idea. It started off as a story for my son, and we really wanted it to be a family fantasy adventure.
It's cool, but there's some odd humor that I'm surprised it even got by the Chinese censors. Yeah. Jet Li's urinating in Jackie Chan's face in the desert. Just any comment?
That scene became known on the set as the curse of the golden shower. It's actually in writing The Silent Monk, we wanted to have Monkey King bursting out at times, as the Silent Monk was trying to hold it in, and Monkey King was known for this kind of behavior. And when it came to the sacred and shrines and urinating on the shrines. And so this was a little bit of Monkey King breaking out, just like Jet's wild laughter and drinking of the booze.
Did the MPAA have any comments, or was it just was it never even brought up for your censors?
Never brought up.
All right. Yeah. Another question, right there in the middle, like an orange shirt or something. The question for John was, how much have you seen screenwriting change since you began, and also in your duality of roles, how do you see yourself as both a producer and a writer?
I think that for me, as a writer, I live outside of town. I live in the mountains in northern Vermont, and it's gotten easier in a technical sense to be able to live outside of town and with email. And even coming back from the set in China, I was emailing dialogue for Jackie Chan to the set. And I think that living outside of town is more of an option now, and more writers are doing it. I think that as far as being a screenwriter or producer, after my first screenplay experience, I was kind of in awe of the experience with Walter Hill directing and the movie getting made, and it wasn't until like a year after where I really looked at the film and reflected back on it and felt like, okay, I was a kid in awe, and I didn't take care of the script enough. And so I started attaching myself as a producer, so I would be more involved. And in the case of Young Guns, they said, we want to buy it. And I said, well, I come along as a producer. They tried to talk me out of it, and I said, no deal. And so I came along as a producer, and I did that on my next 5 projects. And then I started developing relationships.
Did they really give you the power, though? Because sometimes writers are given producer credits and just shoved to the side.
Yeah, I think it's really all about the relationship with the director, and that's what I was going to get to, because I don't really produce anymore, but I'm still on the set right to the end, and still involved in casting and music, and on this project I'm involved in in marketing right now. But Joe Johnston on Hidalgo, I wasn't a producer, but I was on the set through from the beginning, and I feel like a writer should become the best technical advisor that they could find. You should know your material inside and out and be a resource and make them see that they'd be foolish to not have you there all the time. And on Hidalgo, when it was all over, and I left, and I went to the first screening, and at the beginning of the film, I saw a film by Joe Johnston and John Fusco. And that was Joe, the director, who shared that credit on his own and didn't have to, but we became tight, and at the same time, the writer has to be realistic and realize it's collaborative, and you have to choose your battles wisely and support the director. And so far, that kind of relationship with directors has worked.
Time for 1 or 2 last questions. Would you ever see you guys working together again on another movie?
Of course, we would do one movie. He's my brother. Yeah, but different mother.
We're the Smothers Brothers, if you haven't noticed. Yeah.
What's next for you guys? John, is it true you're doing a remake of Seven Samurai, Kurosawa's film?
Yeah, well, Harvey Weinstein had come to me to talk about Seven Samurai, and I said, I don't even want to go there.
That's what most people would want you to say, by the way.
Hallowed ground, but he said, look, I'm really passionate about this, and I just want to talk to you about it. And we had a few meetings, and through the conversation, we talked a lot about Magnificent Seven and how we felt that really worked as an adaptation. And during the conversation, the subject of security contractors came up, and the type of Blackwater companies. And I was intrigued by the idea that, because these guys who ship off to Iraq, and some stuff that I researched in northern Thailand, and felt that if we didn't do a remake, but a sort of a tribute to the Kurosawa idea set in this interesting world of Blackwater security contractors, and setting it in northern Thailand, where they recruit out of Bangkok. And so I took a shot at it, and we're still working on it. But
I like that concept. So he doesn't own the underlying rights to Seven Samurai?
He does.
Oh, he does?
He does.
Is there any chance he could not call it Seven Samurai?
Yeah, it won't be called that.
Good.
But as we all know, there have been so many knockoffs.
Yeah.
But Magnificent Seven, I don't think you could really do a remake again up until this time with the idea of security contractors and these kind of Ronin.
I like your way into the story. What about Wolf Brother with Ridley Scott? Give us the pitch and the status of that.
Yeah, it's Wolf Brothers, a young adult novel set 6,000 years ago in the past by Michelle Paver, very popular in the UK, set in this world of tribal cultures. And so I adapted that for Ridley as a producer. And the writer's strike we slowed that down, but it's getting its legs again.
What about your dream project, Highwaymen?
It's the story of the 2 Texas Rangers in 1934 who finally tracked down Bonnie and Clyde. The one Texas Ranger, Frank Hamer, who was pretty much vilified very much vilified in the Arthur Penn film. His family had sued Warner Brothers and had won a large settlement, and rightly so. Frank Hamer was an amazing guy. And I went down and met Frank Hamer Jr. and told him that I wanted to tell his father's story and do the flip side of the Bonnie and Clyde legend. And he didn't want to meet with anyone from Hollywood, but finally got an audience with him and wrote a screenplay that he really liked. And for about 2 days, we had another historic union together to rival the Jet and Jackie reunion. We had Redford and Newman wanting to do it. And at the last minute, Paul decided not to do it. But yeah, we were.
How long ago was that they were willing to, that they were thinking about doing it?
This was about 2 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're back to the casting table on it, but it's a real passion project of mine.
I see Jackie Chan and Jet Li as highway.
Yeah.
Or Collin. Collin, what's next for you?
You are damn right. Next one, I have several projects in the various stages of development. And actors always don't say it too quick until on set.
Have you ever considered writing or directing? Is that something that's ever interested you?
Yeah, one day. Yeah. Teach me some.
He's got some great original ideas.
John, have you ever wanted to direct?
When the right project comes along and I feel that's the one that I'm willing to go out there and die for, because it is a commitment beyond belief. I'll be ready to do it. And right now, I've been fortunate that I've had good relationships with directors and I can stay involved. But I suspect that right project will come along sometime soon.
Cool. You guys have been very generous with your time. Give it up again for John Fusco and Collin Chou.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's how the Q&A went down. Special thanks again to screenwriter John Fusco and actor Collin Chou for spending time with us to discuss their new film, The Forbidden Kingdom. If you dug this episode of the podcast in general, consider tossing a virtual tip into our PayPal virtual tip jar by visiting www.creativescreenwritingmagazine.blogspot.com and look for the PayPal icon. Your tips are appreciated and definitely help out with equipment, hard drives, and all the other stuff we need to keep this podcast running. Of course, feel free to check out my blog, which I even managed to update on the rare occasion that I have time to do so by visiting www.jeffgoldsmith.blogspot.com. You can also always feel free to drop me a line by emailing me at yo.goldsmith@gmail.com, and I'll do my darndest to get back to you as soon as I can. Of course, don't forget to click that subscribe button in iTunes or your podcatching software, because that's how episodes are downloaded automatically every time you click refresh. And if you have a minute, feel free to leave us positive feedback in the iTunes Music Store or at podcastalley.com. I'm Jeff Goldsmith, senior editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, thanking you again for tuning in and telling you to stay out of trouble. Till next week.